To the left-hand side for Vieira, who'll play it through to Gabriel Jesus, who's in here for Arsenal. Gabriel Jesus to finish it off. Oh, what a way to do it! Gabriel Jesus seals the points for Arsenal. He's back, and he's back with a bang. Into the penalty area it goes. Gabriel's header, and it's into the back of the net. Arsenal take an early lead through Gabriel.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the daily Arsenal podcast with me, Harry Symeou.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Monday. Welcome back to another live episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's 5 and we're live. We are back and I'm looking forward to interacting with you guys in the live chat, as well as bringing you all the talking points that we're going to discuss on today's show. And we've got quite a bit to get into. We're going to talk Nico Williams because that's the fashion at the minute, isn't it? He's put in some really impressive performances at Euro 2024. He's being linked with Arsenal. It's a story that's not going away, so we'll bring you the latest on that. We're also going to talk about a couple of other players, a couple of new names to be linked with Arsenal, certainly new in terms of this summer anyway. We're going to talk Mikel Merino and we're going to talk Giurassy as well, the Stuttgart forward, who is apparently somebody that Arsenal are interested in. We're going to get into all of that on this episode. But first of all, I just want to begin by saying how glorious and marvelous the weather is here in London. The sun is shining. It's about, 26, 27 degrees, which is just in that kind of sweet spot for London. When I'm away, when I'm abroad, when I'm in the sun and I've got a beach and a pool or whatever, I don't mind the temperature being a lot higher than this because I've got the environment that I need to be able to enjoy it. Whereas in London, it gets a bit sticky, it gets a bit stuffy, and it's not very nice when it's really, really hot. So this temperature, 26 degrees it is, I've just checked at the time of recording, is just right. It's warm enough to walk around in your shorts and to not have to worry about taking a jacket or anything like that with you. But it's not sweat box warm, which I also like as well. Big hello to everybody in the live chat. Good to see so many of you with us today. We haven't been live for a few days now. We've been doing pre-recorded episodes, but that's been so that we can keep the consistency. And guess what? We've managed to keep it up, which has been really, really good. We are on the road to 35,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel as well, which is also amazing. But if you are new, if you're freeloading, if you're watching this video without being subscribed, what are you playing at? It doesn't cost a thing. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video as well. It really, really does help. Let me say a few hellos before we end. Well, I say end before we jump into, I should say, because we're not going to end the show. We've just started with 3 minutes in. Let's jump into the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let's say a few hellos and then we'll get into today's stories. Big hello to Tamina Ahmed, who says, how are you doing today? I'm good, thank you. Hope you are too. Nichon says this window's getting worse and worse. Merino, Giurassy will end up with Merino in midfield and new contracts for Eddie with Nwaneri as our new winger. Come on, calm down. Calm down. We've been saying for ages that nothing significant is going to happen probably until the European Championships are over. We're not even halfway through them yet, so relax, chill. Quest for the Best says hello to all our fellow Gooners on a very hot and sunny afternoon in London. Afsar says the summer is finally here, so there's no excuse for Harry to be late. I don't think it's the weather that makes me late, but yeah, I do prefer the summer, of course. What else have we got? M. Dot says this is perfect for the drive home. We've got Mafia Boss, we've got Owen, we've got Crypto FPL, we've got Stefan, and we've got Peter who says bring on Fig Tree Bay. Lovely beach in Cyprus, that is, for those of you that don't know. Marco says, hope you can bust out the barbecue tonight. Do you know what? I'm not going to. I did one on Friday. I cooked so much meat on Friday that I had leftovers for Saturday. And then my wife cooked a lovely Greek Cypriot dish yesterday. And there was so much left over that we didn't need to cook today either. So, yeah, I'm not going to be doing it today. I might try and squeeze one in before I go away at the end of the week, but we'll see. We'll see. Times with JR says, good evening, Harry. Absolutely loving the regular content. helping me get through this wet, cold, damp, boiling hot June. Interesting listening about the Arsenal rumours. They are just rumours at this stage. It is important to stress that. I don't want anybody to sort of take the stories that we're talking about and go wild on them and go really big in terms of getting your hopes up, because there will be players whose names that you hear and they excite you. There will be players whose names underwhelm you. But the truth is, we don't really know a lot about what's going on at this moment in time. And yeah, we're bringing you content and we're discussing the reports that are out there, but we always have to do that. And I say this every summer with a huge pinch of salt. So please do. Be conscious and wary of that. Patrick O'Connor joins us from Belfast on the way home from work. Hope you're well, my friend. He says, keep up the great work, Harry. Thank you very, very much. Okay, I've been waffling on for long enough. Let's get into the first of today's stories. And we begin with Nico Williams, a name that we've heard quite a bit in the last week or so. Lots of talk about his release clause. Lots of talk about whether or not he's quite there yet. I've said before that I think he's a little bit raw. I think that he's got a lot of really exciting attributes, which is why he's really stood out for the Spanish national side. Do I think his decision-making is 100% there yet? No. Do I think that he's as good a finisher as maybe he ought to be? No. But when you look at his statistics and you look at the season that he had last season, he's one hell of a provider from a wide area. And you can understand why a talented coach like Mikel Arteta will look at Nico Williams and think, all the things that I can't possibly give you, they're already there. The speed, the athleticism, the turn of pace, the good footwork, etc., etc. He'll think, I can't give you that stuff because that is stuff that you either have or you don't have kind of naturally, right? But if you've got all of that, I think I can mold you into a really useful and really threatening wide player. And I think that's how Mikel will look at Nico Williams. I'm not saying that I know this is true. I'm not saying that I know that the interest in him at this moment in time is concrete. But we've heard lots and lots of reports. Chelsea have been linked with him as well. If a player turns up at an international tournament and performs the way that Nico Williams has so far, and if he can keep that up, obviously Spain are in action tonight at the time of recording, and, you know, if he can keep it up in the next round of the competition and maybe beyond that, then of course there will be plenty of sides lining up to sign him, because his release clause is a very reasonable one. According to reports in Spain, it's around about 60 million euros. This particular piece that we're going to reference now says 58 million euros. I don't know which figures bang on, but what I do know is it is around that sum of money. Okay, so we're talking between 58 and 60 million euros. Now, earlier this afternoon, Court Offside, who are an outlet that do quite well during the transfer windows. I don't know an awful lot about them, but I see them cropping up constantly. I'm pretty sure that they get some really high-profile journalists on their podcast on a weekly basis. But this is what they've had to say on Nico Williams this afternoon. Sources with a close understanding of Nico Williams' situation have informed Court Offside that there is a long list of suitors pursuing the player this summer, though Arsenal and Chelsea are the ones advancing for the moment, with Arsenal, and they put this in caps, ready to pay his 58 million euro release clause. So what this piece is suggesting is that of all the sides that are interested, that are looking at Nico Williams, that see him as a very good signing potentially, if they can get a deal done this summer, Arsenal are the ones ready to pull the trigger on this. Arsenal are the ones that have already agreed internally to pay that release clause, if that's what it takes to get Nico Williams from San Mamés over to Emirates Stadium. Let me know what you think about that. I'm still a little bit on the fence about the player, but I don't say that because I don't think that it's possible that he could be a good fit, or because I've been unimpressed by what I've seen of him so far. Every time I've watched Nico Williams play, I've looked at him and thought, yeah, you know what, there's something there. My reservation tends to come from, when I look at transfer targets like this, from a lack of knowledge at the end of the day, right? If I don't know an awful lot about him, it's very difficult for me to sit there and tell you, this is what he's good at, this is what he's bad at, and for those reasons, this is why he does or doesn't fit into the Arsenal team. It's why we're doing those scouting report videos and podcasts over the course of this summer, partly because I'm hoping that you guys are enjoying them, but also because the research helps me to understand a lot more about that player, and it puts me in a much more informed position when I then go on to discuss these players and their suitability to Arsenal Football Club. Let me know what you think on Nico Williams. Let's have a look at what the comment section is saying at the moment. AJ says raw player is fine for a player that's going to initially share the minutes while developing. Well, I think that's fair, right? Because I don't think for a second that Nico Williams would come in and displace anybody in the starting 11. And that's not because he's not a good enough player, but like he's not going to play on the right ahead of Bukayo Saka. He predominantly plays from the left. And in order to take that position and make it his own, he's going to have to get ahead of not just Leandro Trossard, who finished the season there really, really strongly, but also Gabriel Martinelli, who I still believe Mikel Arteta has plenty of faith in. Apologies if you can hear the local ice cream van in the background. Windows are open, doors are open, it happens. But anyway, that's the point I'm trying to make here. So I think it's okay for Nico Williams to come in and be that player, the player who we kind of lean on a little bit, but don't solely rely upon in the early stages of his Arsenal career. And I know 58 million euros, 60 million euros, what is it, 54 million pounds sounds like a lot of money, but in today's market, is it really? Like, it's not like the 100+ that we spent on Declan Rice, which meant that he had to come into the team and play that huge role straight away from the off. This is a little bit different, and it shows you that if Arsenal are going to go and bring in a player like this, and I'm speaking hypothetically, of course, and use him as that kind of minute sharer and someone that does come in and out of the side while he finds his feet, it shows you that we've come a long way, isn't it? Because we've got a squad that is so good and so strong that we can now do that. We can go and bring someone in for 60 odd million, and it doesn't guarantee that they start. That shows the raising of the bar, generally speaking. Hacker says he wants big wages, probably worth it though. Stefan's highlighted a piece from The Athletic, or a quote from The Athletic, in which they say Arsenal have made Spain's Nico Williams their preferred target if they decide to move for a winger this summer. I think we talked about this a few days ago when they dropped this. Marco says, no expert at all, but Nico's come a long way, no doubt. His finishing in front of goal, I'd argue, was even worse before. Those outside of the box shots don't hit the target for him a year ago. So Marco highlighting that in his eyes, he's improved quite a bit. Cass says, until I see players come through the door, I'm not getting excited by any rumors until it's official when the players are wearing the shirt. Fair enough. But if we don't talk about these rumors, we'll have nothing to talk about all summer. Paul Nell says, Eze or Williams, who would you prefer? I think a lot of people would probably lean towards Eze because they would say, well, he's done it in the Premier League before. And I'm kind of inclined to think like that, but also I think talent trumps all. And I think that you could make the case for either one of them here. Look, personally, I'm going to say Williams, because I think his ceiling is potentially higher. That's just my opinion based on what I've seen of him recently. But yeah, look, if this does move, if this does progress, we'll do one of those scouting report videos and we'll give you a little bit more. What else have we got? Lots of people referencing that Barcelona are interested in him as well. The Guna Factory says, I like Nico. I think he will offer a lot to the team and not necessarily be the guy scoring the goals straight away anyway. Yeah, maybe over time, we'll figure that out. And we'll see exactly what he's all about. And if he doesn't join Arsenal, I'm sure he's someone that we'll be keeping a close eye on over the coming years. Lots of you saying, look, chill out. We're not going to get much movement before the World Cup. And I completely agree with that. I was watching something a few days ago on the Different Knock, where Alex was talking about the possibility of maybe selling Leandro Trossard this summer. And I remember looking at that and thinking, what's he saying, that we should sell him? But then actually, when I watched the video, he went through scenarios in which it might actually be okay to sell Leandro Trossard. And I think at Leandro Trossard's age, it's kind of okay to consider that. And the reason I'm saying that is because if Nico Williams come in predominantly a left winger, that's one player that would be impacted or affected by this. But I think in a squad, you need a balance. And I don't think you can fill it up with young players that are still finding their way and expect to win the game's biggest prizes. I think you need a balance of people that are experienced senior players, of which Leandro Trossard is certainly one. If Nico Williams was to come in and hypothetically replace him, I don't think he would be that, not at this stage anyway. Dave Atkinson just highlighting his wages, which are a lot, but that is because Bilbao have a policy whereby they only use Basque players. And because they only use Basque players, their options are limited. And because their options are limited, it becomes even more important that they keep this type of player at their football club. So, yeah, I think you're right. 300 grand is a lot of money. And I would certainly not want to be giving him that as a sort of in and out player at Arsenal if he was to make the move across. But at some point, I'm sure that Nico Williams will allow or will be content with dropping down that wage slightly because he'll know that it's overinflated because of where he is and his status there. And perhaps he'd be open-minded and willing to drop that down in order to get a move to what he perceives, I guess, to be a bigger club. But anyway, let's move on to our next story. Mikel Arteta wants to sign Mikel Merino no matter what this summer and has already called the player to convey the big plans he has for him. Merino is said to be, and I quote, seduced by a potential move, while Real Sociedad feel all roads lead to a transfer for around about 25 million euros. And this comes from a Barcelona-based outlet, Sport. Now, Sport have been reporting for a little while that Barcelona are looking to sign Mikel Merino this summer, that they'd like to bring him in, and that the only competition they face currently is from Arsenal. Then they go on to reveal the details that I've just given you, that Arteta's apparently already been in contact with him, has already put across his plans for the player, and that the player is seemingly on board with that. 25 million euros is a very, very affordable sum. And so if this interest is genuine and Arsenal are seriously considering a move for Mikel Merino, I can't see a world in which the price point is the problem. So, yeah, what do I know about him? Honestly, guys, not that much. And he would be another subject of the Scouting Report series if indeed this does move forward. I looked into him very, very briefly just before coming online. And what I'll do is I'll give you some top line information on him now, just so that you guys are up to speed if you are like me, someone who knows the name, knew that he played for Real Sociedad, have seen him knocking around the Spanish squad for Euro 2024, but probably don't know a great deal about him. Central midfielder predominantly, but has been known to play in that slightly deeper position as well. 28 years old, so he's not a spring chicken. Just the 23 caps for Spain probably makes it 24 tonight, which is a great deal for someone of 28 years of age, but he has had some bloody greats in front of him over the years, if you look at it that way. His contract expires in June 2025, which means he is going into the final year of his contract, which is probably why Real Sociedad are open to the idea of selling him on for that type of figure that we just discussed. What is interesting that people probably might not remember is that he did have a stint at Newcastle United. He initially went to Newcastle United on loan from Borussia Dortmund in 2017. He then returned to Dortmund in June 2018. Dortmund then sold him to Newcastle United for 7 million euros before he left just a few days later. Strange one, this, to join Real Sociedad for 12 million euros. In terms of appearances for Newcastle, I'll just check exactly how many there were. Not that many, but it was around about 25 from what I can see. 1 goal, 1 assist as well. Is this a player that I would have put at the top of my list going into the summer? Certainly not. Is this a player that I even considered as an option? Certainly not. But clearly, if this is true, and again, as I keep saying, you have to take all these stories right now with a massive pinch of salt, Mikel Arteta is a fan, then I've kind of got to the point where I just trust him. Let's see what you guys are saying on this. Some of you saying who, as if to say, who is that? Is he good enough for us? Etc. Etc. Marco says, interesting that Mikel is using his Basque connections here. Real Sociedad in Merino and Bilbao in Nico. Yeah, true. What else have we got? Tom says also, going back to the point about Williams' wages, the advertising / image rights would be higher for Williams in the PL, and through the exposure of playing Champions League football, that could balance out the pay cut he'd need to take. Yeah, it's a good point. Crypto FPL says no, because Merino is 28 years old. I realize I just jumped back to Williams and then back to Merino, but going back to Mikel Merino, 28 years old is too old for him. Look, if you're going to get the guy for like 20 odd million quid and he's going to be a bit of a placeholder for a couple of seasons or whatever, then I'm fine with that. But I agree where you're coming. I agree on the basic principle of, should Arsenal really be looking to spend on 28-year-olds? I guess you could make the case that we spent money on a senior Jorginho, but we spent a modest amount of money knowing exactly what we were getting. I guess you could kind of then in turn apply that same principle here and say, well, he's 28 years old, but we're paying a relatively reasonable fee, and the fee does reflect his age, right? And the contract situation at Real Sociedad. I think if we have convinced this guy and seduced him, as is being reported in Spain, and he's really kind of pushing for the move behind the scenes, think about his contract situation as well. There's a good chance that Real Sociedad sanction this at a reasonable amount of money, in which case I'm fine with it. We're going to move on to our final story of the day. It's a totally new name, at least for this summer, linked anyway. Let's get on to this next one right after this. Okay, according to reports, Arsenal are linked with Serhou Guirassy, the Stuttgart striker, who, according to reports in Germany earlier today, has told VfB Stuttgart that he wants to leave the club this summer. Arsenal are among those in the race for the Bundesliga start, according to Christian Falk. And he does have a separate release clause for non-German teams. Now, this piece is behind a paywall, so I don't know what the details of it are. I don't know how much they're saying that release clause is. So we'll try and find that information out over the coming days, and if indeed this does move forward as a story. But just looking at the season that Serhou Guirassy had last season, it's pretty remarkable. Guinea international, worth around about 40 million euros according to Transfermarkt, scored an incredible 28 goals in 28 Bundesliga appearances last season. That is remarkable. Got another 2 in 2 appearances in the DFB Pokal as well. So yeah, unbelievable record. Has been known to play from out on the left-hand side in the past as well, and he's a player whose value has skyrocketed in the last sort of 12 months, understandably. Spent some time in the past at Lille, at Auxerre, at Cologne, at Amiens, Stade Rennais, and recently, I say recently, July the 1st, 2023, so about a year ago, joined VfB Stuttgart for 9 million euros from Stade Rennais, and has never really looked back. Look at that record. It is truly incredible. And so you can understand why he may be on the radar. But if you've got a problem with Mikel Merino being 28 years old, then you're probably going to have a problem with Serhou Guirassy as well, because it wouldn't be a long-term signing. Given, though, that we know his release clause, from what we've been reading in the past, is quite low. Let me try and figure out what it is. Hold on, Giurassy release clause. So back on the 6th of Feb, it was reported that it was £17.5 million, which is nothing at all. So again, a bit like Merino, if the guy that you want, the main guy that you want, or the one that you see is as the long-term option, either isn't available or hasn't really announced himself yet and sort of brought himself to your attention yet, and you don't want to go big on someone you're not sure about, this feels like a good stopgap signing. A guy who's proven he can score goals. He's done it in a league that stylistically is quite similar to the Premier League as well. And so surely you'd consider this. Again, a bit like Nico Williams, a bit like Mikel Merino. I'm not totally convinced, because they're not players I've seen a great deal of. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the amount of money being discussed, these deals don't feel like bad deals based on my gut instinct anyway. But of course, we'll probably have to wait and see if this does develop and if this is a thing. What else have I got? Marco says, if we're trying to upgrade on Nketiah, ideally, how does this do that? I would make the case that someone who scored 28 goals in 28 games in the Bundesliga last season is at a higher level than Eddie Nketiah. I think that's fair to say. Eddie Nketiah has been a bit part player at Arsenal for a number of years now. But if he wasn't and he played every single week, do you think that he would put in that kind of return? I don't think he would. So I think it's a bit harsh to say that he wouldn't be an upgrade on Eddie Nketiah, but I also don't think he's the one, if that makes sense. Like, he's not the Alexander Isak that you would go out on a limb for, that you would break the bank for, that you would go that extra mile to get in the door. That's not what Serhou Guirassy is. He's someone that might be an option for us as an alternative attacking option to what we already have, but he's not the guy that you stick at the top of your front line and you try and build a team around him for years to come. So I understand the reservation, but I thought that comparison was just a little bit harsh. What else are people saying? Jack says he's better and a different profile to Eddie. Darren Taylor has got the right hump already. Eddie is slowly killing our club. Darren, for all we know, and we've said this 1,000,001 times when we do these shows, for all we know, Edu isn't even looking at this player. These are transfer rumors that are being put out around the continent. We're bringing them all together and we're discussing them and sharing some thoughts on them. Nobody is sitting here with a straight face and saying that, these are the signings that we are definitely getting or the signings that we definitely should be getting, because the truth is we don't know. You can say Edu is slowly killing our club. From where I can see, our club have been on the rise for the last few years, and Edu's been right at the forefront of that. So let's be fair in our analysis of Arsenal's recruitment policy of late. Everybody gets upset in the summer. It happened last summer. Everybody got upset. Oh my God, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And bang, we're signing Declan Rice. Everybody got upset when we signed Kai Havertz, and bang, second half of the season, he was a hit and a half. People just are so reactionary with all this stuff. Like, I've got to the point where, yes, I've got my opinions on players and I've got my opinions on what fits and what doesn't, of course. But at the same time, you've got to trust the people that have made a series of really good decisions in recent years that have got us into the position in the first place. Okay, I am going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Just a quick recap. Then Arsenal said to be willing to trigger Nico Williams' release clause. Whether that's going to happen or not, we'll have to wait and find out. Mikel Merino is a player that Arsenal and Mikel Arteta specifically want to sign no matter what this summer. And according to those reports coming out of Spain, he's already been seduced by the Arsenal boss. And we finished up on Serhou Guirassy, the Stuttgart striker, who's apparently told them that he wants to leave, has a release clause of around about 17.5 million. Not clear if that's different for non-Bundesliga clubs, but could he be the man that Arsenal bring in to bolster their striking options this summer? We're going to have to find out. Just before I go, please leave a like on the video. There's only 69 likes on the video. And when you look at the number of views that we're getting on the videos over this past week or so, the like numbers are nowhere near where they need to be. And I don't want to keep begging and asking and moaning about it, but I cannot put into words how important that is for the channel and for its growth. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, it really, really does help. And if you're listening on audio, please do leave us a review too, because that also really helps. I'll see you on the next one. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a great day. Goodbye.